Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I watch a lot of film and television shows. Obviously, I cover things like that on my channel, but I also just like watching movies and TV shows in my personal life. I basically have my TV on at all times. I don't know if that's good for my personal health or not. That's a whole other story for another day. But I watch a lot of content, and the idea of me sitting down and doing another video where I basically had to make a 25-slide presentation about why Stranger Things Season 5 was bad, another big project like that seemed a little bit insurmountable. So I was trying to figure out like a happy medium, like how can I just like not make an hour-and-a-half long diatribe about Stranger Things Season 5. I was taking stock of some of the things that I've watched so far in 2026 to see if maybe I can make a video about it, and I was like, fuck it, why don't I just make a video about all of the things I've watched in 2026 so far? I have a bit of a staggering variety of different types of shows and movies that I have consumed, and I thought it would be kind of like a fun conversation for us to just sit down together and just kind of shoot the shit a little bit about what I've watched so far. I'm thinking maybe this can maybe even be a thing that I do every month or every other month, probably every other month, knowing my time management skills. I also know you guys have noticed my necklace that I made. I made that necklace because apparently I make jewelry now because there's literally nothing that I can do other than upload on time. I'm going to give a blanket spoiler alert to pretty much everything that we're going to be talking about. I will be putting chapters or timestamps of the different topics that I'm going to be discussing. I will try to go light on the spoilers so I'm not just like dropping massive like spoiler bombs throughout the video on you. You know, try to keep the conversation as general as I can, but there might be spoilers, so be forewarned. And without further ado, let's get started. I don't know if you guys can hear the rain that is going on outside, and there's like a thunderstorm coming potentially, so if you hear anything in the background that's like a whooshing noise, that is what that is, because apparently I can never film without having to deal with the elements, you know. If you are new to my channel, hi, hello, my name is Megan. By day I'm an attorney, and by night I make videos about film and television shows that I find to be interesting. A couple quick things, actually just one quick thing before we get into this video, just to kind of look ahead for some of the uploads on my channel in the next couple weeks. Obviously I'm making this one, as you guys can see, because you're here. After that, I'm going to be making a video about Daredevil Born Again Season 2, which I have a lot of thoughts and opinions on already about the first season. So I would like to cover that in the next several weeks, as I think it comes out on the 10th. One Piece live action is also dropping at the end of this month.
Every word in that sentence was wrong.
So I will hope to get a video out, you know, I don't even want to give a timestamp because I know it's going to be late. I'm going to make a video about that as well. I just to be determined as to when. So check my community post. I'll try to give updates of when I'm going to be starting that process and when I think it'll be uploaded, and then maybe add like 5 weeks to that. And then I think the live action Avatar, The Last Airbender Season 2 is coming out at some point. I don't remember. I don't know when that's coming out, but whenever it does, I will be covering it. And then I'd also like to fold in at some point a video talking about Season 5 of Only Murders in the Building. It has been a while since that final episode dropped, and I have a lot of thoughts and opinions about the season as a whole. And I would love to just do kind of like rewatch that and do an in-depth analysis talking about everything now that we know the finished full picture. So yeah, so look out for that on my channel. Like I said, I post in my community page when I'm having a project like in the works to kind of keep you guys updated. So check out that. It's usually a picture of my cat being cute. There's a lot of whooshing going on outside, so hopefully we don't have the power go out while I am filming. Although it's not the first time that this has happened in one of my videos. So I want to start out with the reality television shows I've been watching in 2026 because, like I said, apparently I watched a lot of reality television this year. I didn't necessarily think I did until I made an itemized PowerPoint presentation detailing every single thing that I consumed so far, and a lot of it was reality television. I want to start out by talking about one of my favorite reality television shows, at least at this point, which is my 7th or 8th rewatch at this point of The Real Housewives of New York City, season 7 through 11 specifically.
Not at all.
Never showed up
Not at all.
before.
You stop. You stop.
I
You stop. You stop. You stop. Don't say that to me.
When I mention the Real Housewives of New York City, or RHONY as we call it in the Bravo universe, I'm referring specifically to these seasons because, hot take, I feel like these are the best seasons and the only ones really worth watching. Yes, there are iconic moments. Yes, Scary Island was like the thing that kind of set off the cast trips for all the other Real Housewives seasons and everything, but I think 7 through 11 is really where the chemistry of this whole franchise is just perfect. If you don't know what the Real Housewives is, I don't know how that's fucking possible at this point, but it is basically a franchise within the Bravo universe that follows the lives of elite women in different social circles across various cities in the country, and I think they have a bunch of like spin-offs in other areas of the world as well. I think it started out as like people who were actually wealthy and kind of following around their day-to-day lives, but then it turned into like what it is now. Not exaggerating when I say there is more than one Real Housewife in the Bravo universe that has been accused of faking a robbery in their home and committing insurance fraud. And there are a lot of current Real Housewives in prison or who have just been released from prison. Not all the housewives are good people. In fact, probably most of them aren't, but I think they're really entertaining. I don't align with them morally, but I think that watching them, do wacky things on my television is a good way to decompress after a long day. Specifically pertaining to the Real Housewives of New York City, I think this is the best one of all of the different franchises, and I mean this specific little cluster of seasons, and there's a couple reasons for that. It's very clear with the franchise, with the Real Housewives, that Bravo is trying to sell you the narrative that all of these women, the cast, is like they're all friends. And maybe that was true in the beginning seasons of some of these shows, but as you have old cast members leave and new cast members come in, Bravo is looking for people that are not necessarily friends with the existing cast members, but more people that are going to be like interesting in their own right and that are going to be good television. And sometimes as a result, it feels like, maybe some of the dynamics are not necessarily like friends. For the Real Housewives of New York City, with this particular cluster of seasons, for better or worse, the women, whether they like each other or not in any particular moment, they have a very long history with each other. And you see there's moments that they're like dealing with things outside of the show when the cameras aren't rolling where they rely on each other. So I do think that gives a bit of a shred of authenticity to the dynamics that we're dealing with here. Like, obviously nothing is like really truly authentic because it is reality television and we know there's like a little sprinkle of production in there. All these women are in the same social circles, they have the same friends, they've known each other for 20 years. You kind of sense that in their dynamics. I also like the fact that these women deal with drama, they have arguments, they get into fights, but they get over things pretty quickly. I mean, except when they don't. Luann and Bethany are like screaming at each other and calling each other a whore, and then 2 days later they're like sitting at brunch talking about their plans to go to Mexico in a couple weeks. They don't get caught up on things and hold a grudge for like 2 years like some of the other franchises do. I do appreciate that, and maybe that is because they're friends. I just generally think this group is also really funny. It's one of my most enjoyed rewatches, like I said, for a reason. Some of my favorite moments from the season 7 through 11 in my rewatch are just kind of observations that I had this particular time around. The whole Bethany and Carol thing in season 10 is kind of a lot. I usually kind of skip over some of the episodes in my rewatches because it's a little bit redundant and a little bit heavy. It does definitely feel like an authentic friendship having a fallout with two people with opposite communication styles and they're not handling it very well. I think they both kind of suck and they're both kind of assholes to each other, but I also both understand where they're coming from. As far as my favorite housewife in this collection of seasons, I think Bethany is a lot to take sometimes, but I think her presence is definitely very helpful in kind of making things move. Dorinda, I think there is a good person, but I think she needs to go to therapy and she needs to stop drinking. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Luann is probably my favorite Real Housewife, if I'm being completely honest. Luann is just such a fascinating Real Housewife because she has gone through many different forms and phases over the years. She was like a countess, like a proper actual countess in early seasons. Then she was sleeping with every guy that moved. Then she was like engaged to Tom D'Agostino, I think his name is, whatever Tom that like everyone slept with, and got married to him after knowing him for 3 months. Then she punched a cop, and then now she's a cabaret singer, and I don't even know if she's still sober or not. Like, she has taken so many different like phases of her life, and I kind of love her for that. There is a reason why I have her mugshot hanging up in my living room.
You're gonna go with Mary, who her grandfather?
I thought this was going to be like a nice, easy breezy video, maybe like 20-30 minutes long, talking about some of the things that I watch. Hello. Oh, hi. But clearly that's not happening. Hello. Hi. Say hi to the people, Lou. Hi. I also want to talk about season 6 of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City because oh boy do I have thoughts and opinions about The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Generally as a show, I enjoy The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. I think that it's probably one of the most popular ones amongst Bravo fans that's currently airing right now. For the same reasons that I like The Real Housewives of New York City, and my cat is just walking in front of the camera, which is amazing and good. I had a harder time getting through the first 3 seasons because of a menace to society by the name of Jen Shaw. But once she got arrested and served her jail time, I think the show just became way better. Season 5 was probably one of my favorite recent seasons of the Real Housewives franchises. It was really great cast. There's a lot of real actual friendships present, and while there are real conversations and vulnerable moments of people sharing real shit going on in their lives, there's also fun, delusional, non-serious moments that make it really fun and entertaining. We were at a bat mitzvah for a 50-year-old woman obsessed with bath bombs, and 2 people got into an argument about whether or not one of the cast members has high body count hair. That's camp. You can't convince me otherwise.
That's high body count hair. That's a high body count dress. Those are high body count heels. If you're gonna call me slutty, I think I look like a mother.
I think the show was really fun and entertaining, and I was expecting similar vibes for season 6. After watching it, I do think it was fun. I do think it was entertaining, but I wish it had a little bit less producer involvement. It did feel a little bit contrived at times. There's always 1 or 2 people in every single season of every single cast of the Real Housewives franchise. There's not much going on with them. So in an effort to kind of earn their keep and their spot in the cast, they just draw up drama with other people. It's like a producer plant, so to speak. Heather Gay and Whitney Rose are definitely the producer plants of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, at least in my opinion. You can be a good producer plant by starting drama in a subtle way, but there is absolutely nothing subtle about what they're doing in season 6, and it's getting a little bit annoying. Not a Meredith Marks fan necessarily, but some of the things they were trying to do with Meredith to get her activated and get her upset, like calling her a drug addict and an alcoholic on national television, without really any basis other than suspicions of her behavior to back that statement up, was kind of crazy. A highlight in particular for me was when they had Bronwyn, one of the cast members, is getting her American citizenship, and in order to kind of celebrate that, she threw a party making everyone dress like Revolutionary War soldiers, and everyone had a fuck-ass powdered wig on. She's dressed in couture Betsy Ross looking dress, and they show up to a warehouse that she had decorated like Washington crossing the Delaware River. No one knows why they're there. She basically is having this party get together in this warehouse where people share the different gossip that they've been spreading about each other, writing it on a crate and throwing it into a fake Delaware River. The party is called Boston Spill the Tea Party.
Throw your box.
So that's tea is spilled, so we throw it in the ocean, and I'm still irritated.
That is just so fundamentally unserious. I loved every second of that. Also, the whole Meredith thing on the plane. Here's the long and the short of it, because my parents are not going to know what the hell I'm talking about because they would not be caught dead watching The Real Housewives. So here's basically what happened. Meredith, one of the cast members, got confronted by another cast member, Brittany, from a TikTok that Brittany was sent about Meredith's husband cheating on her while he was away in Ohio doing work or whatever. So basically, Brittany and Meredith kind of argued with each other about the situation when they were on the yacht. On their way home on the plane, when no one was recording, allegedly Meredith screamed at Brittany for 5 hours straight on the plane. Basically everyone in the cast swears up and down that it happened. Meredith says, "Oh, I just talked about the situation to Lisa for about a half hour. Then we watched a movie and then I fell asleep." Everyone swears that this happened. Even Lisa initially when she was talking to her husband about it was "I've never seen Meredith get that upset. That was crazy." Now, here is my thing. I don't know if it makes me maybe a messy person where if I saw 2 reality TV stars arguing in first class for 5 hours on a plane that I might pick my phone up and record it. The fact that there's no recordings available or nobody has any footage whatsoever of this incident happening over the course of 5 hours, it makes me wonder did it actually happen? Also, everyone is actively trying to get Meredith kicked off of the show, it seems, this year, so it could be an attack in that way. On the other hand, though, it seems like everybody, including people that are friends with Meredith, swear that it occurred, including Lisa and her friend Mary. Mary hates Brittany. Mary would never support Brittany unless if this actually did happen. So it makes me wonder, but I guess we'll never know.
Stop acting like you're the number one guy in this group, man. I'm the number one guy in this group.
It's now time to talk about Vanderpump Rules. This show, I think, changed my brain chemistry. I don't know for good or bad, I'm not entirely sure, but I will never be the same after finding out what the show is. I've always kind of heard of Vanderpump Rules, but I had never really bitten the bullet and dove into the show because I wasn't sure if it was going to be entertaining or not.
Every word in that sentence was wrong.
That's a crazy thought that I once had in my life. Now looking back, that's kind of amazing that I ever thought that. I kind of like had a working knowledge of it a little bit. I also just have heard of Scandival, which had to do with Tom Sandoval, and kind of had an idea through cultural osmosis of what happened there. But I really didn't have any other understanding beyond that. So what exactly is Vanderpump Rules if you have not watched it? Well, it should be the thing on your list to watch next. It is a spinoff of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Lisa Vanderpump, who is one of the cast members from that show, has a bunch of restaurants that she owns in West Hollywood. One of her restaurants, Sexy Unique Restaurant, aka Sir, and just kind of follows their lives in and out of the restaurant. And these people, this is like the most unhinged group of people you will ever meet in your entire life. Every single person in this show is like the absolute worst person that you met in college. Everyone is dating each other, everyone is sleeping with each other, everyone is cheating on their partners with each other. It's like a big incestuous group of people that you work with. It's like unhinged. I love it. I love every second of it. My husband and I have gotten to a point where we will like have like color coded for each character, and we like plot them on a graph of like whether they were a good or bad person in the episode, because just the things that they do are just so unbelievably unhinged. And it's just amazing to see just the trajectory for some of these people throughout the season, because you never know what they're going to do from one moment to the next, and it's amazing and I love it. Just some general thoughts and observations through what I have seen so far, which is through season 5 of Vanderpump Rules. Lisa Vanderpump is kind of like extremely incidental in this show. I understand that they have to have her involved because she technically owns the restaurant where all these people work, and you know, it's the whole premise of the show and all of that, but she is like their boss. So to have like Lisa Vanderpump constantly feeling like she has to like insert herself into whatever drama is going on with her waiters and waitresses just for the sake of making the show work, it feels so uncomfortable. And she never has anything like good to say. She just has like a snarky remark, but it's never like actually feels organic, because in reality Lisa Vanderpump would not be hanging out with her staff members outside of the context of the show. So anything that she does, like any quippy remark that she has when she's talking to her cast members who are obligated basically like at gunpoint by the producers to call her and catch her up on whatever drama is going on, it just feels so forced and stupid. And especially at the reunions, I'm like, just shut the fuck up, Lisa. You have no idea what's actually going on. Jax Taylor, you know, he is the most unpredictable person I've ever seen on reality television. I don't know what he's going to say or do from one second to the next. He is very entertaining. He does bring the drama. He does push storylines forward. And I don't even know if he's doing it on purpose or if he's just that crazy. He is crucial and essential, I would say, so far to the storylines, but as a human being, they should have kept him locked up in that Hawaiian prison for stealing those $300 sunglasses. That's all I'm going to say. I know things about Tom Sandoval that I wish I didn't know about Tom Sandoval at this point. He always seems to kind of consistently be a good guy, not a perfect person, but like a very earnest, trying to be their best type of person through season 5, and I just know things that unfortunately will change my opinion of him probably in the next couple seasons. Tom and Katie getting married this year. Based on what I saw, they should not be getting married. I'm so very sorry. They are two different people. They communicate very differently. They want very much different things in life. It seems like every single one of their friends are telling them that they need to go to counseling, or maybe they shouldn't be getting married because of how much they argue, and how much they argue while drunk probably is not the best way to communicate with your partner. It got to a point where it seemed like hilarious, where they would have to actively like point out when they weren't arguing and how amazing it was when they weren't arguing, because it happened so infrequently that they had to like shout that out. Like imagine feeling compelled every time you weren't actively screaming drunk at your partner to be like, wow, isn't it nice when we're not drunk on tequila throwing tequila at each other? Like, isn't this nice that we're having this nice dinner and we're not screaming about you flirting with somebody else? I wish them nothing but the best, but I don't think there's going to be the best, if that makes sense.
Oh, don't be jealous because I sleep more than you.
I'm never jealous of you. I just want to make it clear that I'm never jealous of you.
I also now want to talk about the show Summer House. I didn't really necessarily know much about it until about a week ago. I had seen like some of the cast members were on certain seasons of Traitors. I remember one of them had a mullet and the other one had dinner with Boston Rob at an Italian restaurant after having bugs dropped on their head during one of the challenges in season 3, which I will block out of my memory forever. I also kind of figured that there was like a house in the summertime of some sort and that these people were associated with said house, but beyond that, the context clues, I really didn't know what the hell was going on with this show. I didn't really have any intention of watching it. However, one of the Vanderpump Rules episodes in season 5 that we were watching had a crossover with like the pilot episode of Summer House to kind of like kick off this new show and introduce it to people. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll watch this show while I'm working or something, you know, maybe just have it on the background. And now I'm on the end of season 6. The general premise of this show is that apparently people in New York in the summertime, it's like really hot and unpleasant and stinky and gross, and to avoid avoid just the general unpleasantness of summertime in New York City. They travel to the Hamptons sometimes over the weekends, and a lot of these people will like rent out a really large house to have as their home base, and they split the cost with like a bunch of friends, and they just basically party and drink and hang out the entire weekend over the summer, and then they head back, and they do that every single week. The show is very entertaining. It's very fun. I'm enjoying myself watching it, but just the general premise of the arrangement, like the summer house, gives me massive anxiety on their behalf. As an introvert, as an INFP, the idea, the sheer mental image of sharing a house with 10 of your friends, not having any sort of like downtime on the weekends, having to travel 2 hours each way, each weekend, to just go and drink and not have any decompression or alone time, like that sounds like my worst fucking nightmare. I know that people, like, sometimes if you have roommates because of financial reasons, that's one thing, but actively choosing to go and just always be around your friends constantly every weekend partying, like, I would get dehydrated. And I'm not knocking people drinking, like, that's fine, but I would simply pass away. They go to bed at like 4 a.m. and they wake up at 9 a.m. Like, I simply could not exist under those circumstances. I need my time to make my silly little necklaces. I need to make my scarves. I need to watch my movies so I can film these videos. Like, I just simply could not do it. And some of them are older than I am.
Where's the me time, Billy?
But it's a fun show. I'm enjoying myself watching it. It is very chaotic. It's not super serious, and it's fun. And if you need kind of like a low stakes, low commitment type of show, then I highly recommend checking that out.
Gosh, I'm flabbergasted. Like, who uses that word?
You can't just call someone a traitor because they have a better vocabulary than you.
It sounds like there's a clicking noise in my right thumb. I don't know what that means. It's now time to talk about the Traitors, not just the US Traitors season 4, because obviously I have a lot of opinions about that, but I also watched the Celebrity UK season of the Traitors as well. I'll start with that one just because I think it's probably a little bit more straightforward and like kind of fully fermented in my brain. Formulated. This is the first UK celebrity version that we've had, and I think it was a really good one. I enjoyed watching it quite a lot. It's funny because there are a lot of differences in the vibe between this iteration of having a celebrity cast in the Traitors versus the US version. It's definitely a lot less chaotic, and that might sound like less entertaining, but I actually quite enjoyed it, and I thought it was a refreshing change of pace. All of the contestants in the UK celebrity Traitors are like actual proper celebrities, not like reality television contestants, and I'm not trying to knock reality TV contestants, but it's very interesting just seeing like there was somebody in the cast for the UK version that was like knighted. It also was like an interesting dynamic too, because yes, some of these people know each other, maybe because they did a project in their line of work in the past. They didn't really necessarily have like going in a bunch of allegiances with one another or like preconceived notions maybe about how somebody was going to act or what they should or shouldn't do. And I think that's something that continues to kind of bog down the US version with all these different celebrities on these reality shows and just like the kind of allegiances that you kind of naturally make as a result. But the UK version, everyone was just kind of acting normal to each other. And it was refreshing because you didn't necessarily owe somebody something just because you happened to be on a Real Housewives franchise, for instance. I appreciated that the UK version, the way that people voted, felt more authentic to what they actually believe rather than what they do in the US version, where they're panicking because they don't want to be seen as like not in line with everybody else or not in line with the majority, and they just kind of vote for 1 or 2 people and that's it. But the UK version, there could be like 20 people at the round table, for instance, and there's like 7 or 8 different names thrown out, and you could go home or get eliminated for only having like 5 votes out of 20 or something like that. I ultimately, and this is spoilers for the winner, spoiler alert if you have not seen the UK Celebrity Traitor season 1, I knew that Alan was going to win going into it. He was the sole traitor standing at the end of it, and while I think he did a phenomenal job and I was very entertained by the season even though I knew what was going to happen, it was just hilarious to me seeing that every single time somebody was like, "You're not a traitor, right?" and then he would not be able to say with a straight face, I can't believe I just spoke in a British accent just now. He would not be able to say with a straight face that he wasn't a traitor. And that was just very funny to me, like seeing that back. I think he did a really good job. I think the way that he didn't change his personality too much and that he has like a normally funny and whimsical and entertaining personality just inherently helped him deflect a lot of the traitorous behavior in a way that people weren't necessarily catching up on. And the one person who did, it was like a little bit too fucking late at the end. Hi, I'm back. It's a couple hours later because I needed to eat dinner and watch the last episode of Vanderpump season 5. It is also darker because I am never not dealing with the elements. Why do my blinds look like that? Were they always like that? Let me know in the comment section if they always look like that because I honestly can't remember. I have a lot of issues with the show The Traitors, especially how the US handles this series. I made a video about it last year, and if you want to check that out, if I remember, I will link it somewhere on the screen. But especially in season 3, I think just how a lot of things transpired, it exposed a lot of weaknesses to the inherent structure of the game. I think one of the biggest issues is just it's way too advantageous to the Traitors to just murder whoever the hell they want and kind of control the pace of like how everything happens in the game. Like, yes, the Faithfuls can banish people, but the Traitors just have way more ease to control who gets eliminated than the Faithfuls do. And I think that's just kind of inherently unfair. People like Boston Rob, who kind of like come into the turret and run the show, can just like get rid of anybody with common sense. And then you're left with a lot of people who are kind of like either neither here nor there in the cast trying to figure out what's going on. It seems like the 4th season of The Traitors actually did manage to implement a lot of positive changes to the game structure that I want to kind of give credit to. I do think that it was a lot harder for the Traitors to kill people this year, and I think it was a much better show for it. For one, there were a lot more killings in plain sight, which requires the Traitors to actually do a certain task in front of everybody else, and only then if they are successful in doing that, then the person gets murdered. And that allows the Faithfuls to actually have evidence to whatever the Traitors are doing, because if they see somebody acting weird, they might think that like, oh, this is a traitor behavior, you know? It's not just based on vibes like it usually is. There's a lot more strategy that we also see the Traitors implement as a result, which I think is super fun. I also appreciated the fact that like there was more consequence to the actual challenges where they're putting money into the pot. Usually that's like the most boring part of any Traitor season, because it's like, oh cool, let me just watch celebrities earn money. Like, I don't even fucking care. With this season, they not only had that be like, okay, yeah, they're putting money in the pot, but they would like split people up into different teams. The first however many people to complete this challenge get shielded. So there's like a wider breadth of people that get protected from murder if you are successful in these challenges. And it makes it harder because the Traitors can't always control who's going to succeed in a challenge. It limits how many people you can consider for murder. And it also allows the Faithfuls to have some sort of control over protecting themselves if they do well in these challenges, which I think is a good thing. There was also the element of the secret traitor, which I know was a little bit controversial to everybody, but I personally, as a concept, thought it was a really cool idea. One of the first times that the Traitors themselves don't know everything that's going on, and it makes more of a difficult scenario because you're trying to work in tandem with somebody that you don't know who it is. I think the person that they picked in particular was maybe not necessarily the best, but whatever. Now kind of getting into more specific spoilers about the US Traitors season 4. If you want to go with a reality television show angle, people that they chose for the most part were very good. I also thought that the Traitors that they chose, Lisa Rinna, Candace Dillard-Bassett, and Rob Roush, I think his name is. I don't watch Love Island, so I don't know who the fuck this man is. I thought they all had interesting chemistry. I would say I think Candace and Lisa, from what I know of them in the Real Housewives universe, seemed kind of like obvious picks in my opinion, but Rob was a really great pick, and he was far and away the best traitor that I've ever seen in the show. He actually implemented strategy. He did certain things to outsmart Faithfuls and Traitors alike. The two people that I don't think necessarily should have been involved in the show were obviously Colton Underwood and Michael Rappaport. I don't know what I've done in this life or in a prior life to have Michael Rappaport involved in so many of my favorite television shows, but I feel like I'm never going to escape this man. He was just as horrible in the show as he is in every other aspect of existence.
Wasn't in time.
What? We're based on what?
Based on the clock.
I do think this season was good overall. It's like purely high camp, high comedy, high theatrics, over the top, and I think it's really fun and entertaining. It is a pale comparison of my personal favorite show, The Mole, which is kind of like a similar structure, but The Mole is just objectively better. But yeah, The Traitors is really fun. I will continue to enjoy watching it, but if they continue to cast problematic people, I don't necessarily know if I will continue to tune in. Okay, it's been like 2 weeks since I last filmed. I'm really sorry. Work has just been kind of chaotic, and life has been chaotic. My cat had 2 teeth extracted last week. She's been on drugs the last week or so. So if you see her ears perk up, she's like right there. But yeah, so life has just been a lot right now, and I'm desperately just trying to get this video out. So let's just try to get through it. Yes, I know I'm wearing the Spooky Island sweater for a second video in a row. It's cold in here, and I just want it to feel cozy, okay? I want to talk now about the non-reality television shows that I've been watching, because believe it or not, I don't just watch slop, okay? Some of the scripted shows that I'm going to be talking about are things that I've seen before, and I'm doing a rewatch of them. Some of them are things that might be new to me, but they're not necessarily new to you. They've been around for a while, and some of them are things that have recently aired that I want to talk about for once I'm actually being like relevant with my discussions here.
I just realized something. You think you're being helpful.
I'm currently doing a rewatch of the show Mad Men with my friend Ben. He initially got to season 6 or almost done with season 6 out of 7 and then just decided to stop watching it for 2 years and then wanted to go back to it, but then remembered he didn't actually recall anything that he watched 2 years ago, and now we're watching it again from the beginning. Now, full disclosure here, I think Mad Men is one of the best American drama shows that has ever existed, or at least that I've ever seen. It's been coined the great American novel on television for a reason, because it's just so fucking good. One of the things I love about Mad Men is that it's a character-driven story. It might seem at times like something is just not really that interesting of an episode, or there's something that's going on that you don't understand why it's happening. And then just the way that the characters are kind of built and the way that the story kind of slowly progresses, it's always building towards something intentional that really takes you by surprise when it actually happens, and it feels worthwhile. It's a slow burn show, to be sure, but I love it and I think it's fantastic. Every single casting decision, every single acting performance is just absolutely top-notch, top-tier. The fact that it only won a handful of Emmys for acting is actually fucking criminal. It's so good. The attention to detail, the continuity with the 60s and within just the story of the show itself is absolutely impeccable, and I love details like that because it shows that the show cares. Also, just the continuity within the story itself, things are set up that are going to be important in season 7 from the beginning. The thoughtfulness and the forethought of putting those things into place early and having them have an actual payoff. It's really rewarding to watch as a first-time viewer and watching it for the 10th time like I am. So if you haven't seen Mad Men, fucking watch it. It's so worth your time. Couple quick observations on rewatch, and there's very, very light spoilers, but I'm going to try to not do that because I don't want to ruin your experience if you haven't seen this show yet. Pete Campbell is pretty fucking rough in the early seasons. Right now we're halfway through season 2 on this rewatch, and Pete Campbell is just... he is tough to take. I forget just how difficult he is to watch in some of these early seasons every single time I do a rewatch. Now, Mad Men has a lot of very flawed people. Basically, every main character at some point or another is going to ebb and flow with how much you like them or not. You're going to be rooting for them one season, and then you're going to wish death upon them the next. And, that's intentional because it's a character-driven story, so we have to kind of have fluctuations with how our characters are behaving and responding to things that they're experiencing. And Pete Campbell does have his good moments. He definitely has his bad moments. He definitely does do a lot of growing and developing in certain ways in later seasons. It's just early season Pete Campbell is the most insufferable, creepy, nepo baby prick that you could ever possibly conjure in your brain. And it's a lot. I also, like I said, have been noticing just rewatching the show and knowing how it ends. The foundation for things is laid in the first season. I'm not going to get into what specifically, but there are a lot of, character moments and little details and plot points that allude to things that happen in the final episodes that I think is really interesting, and I really enjoy the fact that after watching the show so many times, I notice these things. Also, just kind of noticing too, because I've also been watching Desperate Housewives, which we're going to talk about next, spoiler alert. There is a gargantuan overlap in the characters that are in Mad Men and in Desperate Housewives, and then also that are in The West Wing and that are in White Collar and in the show Frasier as well. There's just so much overlap between these 5 shows, weirdly, and they're 5 of my favorite shows. The pipeline is crazy. There's a conspiracy about it, I'm sure. Where the hell is my slideshow? Okay, here it is. I've been really enjoying Desperate Housewives. I know that I'm 20 years late to the hype, but Desperate Housewives, I was unfamiliar with your game. I did not know how funny you were. I actually, fun fact, thought that Desperate Housewives was a true crime thriller until maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I think it was once Eva Longoria was a guest on season 4 of Only Murders in the Building, and she was really funny, and I was wow, Eva Longoria has amazing comedic timing. She should be on a comedy or something, not realizing she was on one of the most popular primetime soap opera comedies. But we live and learn, right? If you have not seen Desperate Housewives or you don't know what it is, essentially it is a primetime soap opera, drama, comedy, extremely over the top, extremely dramatic for no reason. And it's also very campy and unserious in a way that I find very entertaining. It essentially tells the story of these 4 different women who live on a fictional street called Wisteria Lane in a fictional state of Fairview. They all are friends and they all kind of have their own things going on in their respective lives, and they all have secrets. Their friend, Mary Alice Young, who is kind of the narrator at the beginning and end of every episode from the the beginning to the end of the series. She mysteriously commits suicide in the first couple minutes of the first episode, and everybody for the rest of the season is trying to figure out why the hell that happened. It's kind of just like the whole mystery that envelops into the first season. It's really a great way to kind of like captivate you and bring you in because everybody's secrets are kind of tied to her death. Desperate Housewives is very unserious in the sense that like they have no problem just taking a situation and turning the volume up to like 100 just for like comedic effect and drama and like that soap opera vibe, but not being a joke. Everything is always kind of like the most dramatic thing in every situation, and I like it. I like that they lean into it. They're not afraid to do that, but they also have good performances genuinely and like a couple like good emotional moments that make you like feel like everything is balanced out a little bit. The first season's mystery surrounding Mary Alice and what happened to her, I felt like that was a really good solid mystery with a satisfying conclusion. Season 2's mystery, I am enjoying it, but it's kind of centering around the Applewhite's family. I think Betty Applewhite, the character and the performance from this actress is really, really good. I just wish her storyline was a little bit more integrated into everything else that's going on with our other main characters because it just feels a little bit detached. Like she's not really friends with any of the girls. None of the girls are really like interested in getting to know her, so it just feels like this random thing that's going on, and then everyone else has their other side stories, and that seems more interesting because we know them already. But I guess we'll see how everything comes together at the end of the season. I am not there yet. My favorite characters currently are Bree, Edie, and the woman that plays Mrs. Landingham. Edie, like, she deserves an apple just as much as any of the other girls do. The characters that get on my nerves consistently consist of Zach. Like, I know he's a teenager, but he's creepy and weird, and like him wearing a puka shell necklace in season 2, I just like physically, I just couldn't deal with that. Susan, listen, Susan just like gives me actual anxiety from everything that she decides to do in every situation because it's always like the worst possible thing. It's like the most illogical. She is a klutz to the point where she is a safety hazard to everyone within a 50-foot radius of her. She's always doing something that is chaotic for no reason, and it's like it's exhausting at a certain point. I also hate Tom Scavo. Like, I'll just say, like, if Tom Scavo has no haters, I must be in the ground somewhere. Compared to some of the other men who have committed literal crimes, sure, he's not like a felon, so I guess we give him brownie points and a pat on the head for that. But Tom Scavo just annoys me. Also, Andrew, Bree's son, he scares me. But yeah, if you haven't seen Desperate Housewives, it's a really fun show to watch. It's a really fun show to binge. It reeks of 2000s campiness and drama and over-the-topness, I guess you could say. And I've been having a really fun time watching it. Okay, here's the thing. I have already said everything that I need to say, or that really any rational human being should ever need to say about Stranger Things Season 5 in my last video. If you haven't seen it and you want to know what I think in depth about Stranger Things the final season, you can check that video out. I probably won't remember to link it somewhere, but you can just go find it and watch it because it's a lot and I had a lot of things to say. Long story long, I didn't love Season 5. So I don't really want to talk about Stranger Things any more than I already have, and I don't want to step on that video and just be redundant for those of you who have watched that video. However, because I technically did watch probably like 3 episodes of Stranger Things in 2026, and because I am legally obligated in this video by the terms and conditions of what we're doing here to actually talk about everything that I watched in 2026 so far, I am under legal obligation to talk about Season 5 of Stranger Things. And by legal obligation, I mean I am a lawyer and I feel obligated to talk about it in this video. So I will just say the couple random musings that I thought of that I didn't include in that video. So here we go. The military finds out, along with our characters in like the early episodes of season 5, that Vecna is targeting these school-aged children and that we need to protect them because if he gathers enough of them, something is going to happen, something, sucking their life forces, something, the end of the world and existence as we know it. The military goes to these students' houses and they knock on the door and they're like, hello, Mr. and Mrs. whoever, we need your child and we need to like take them and put them on this bus and keep them at a military camp. Children are like scared and nervous and they don't know what the fuck is going on, like understandably so. The military is here because there was an earthquake, and that's what everyone in Hawkins is being told. I think as it is, it's kind of a weak ass excuse to have the military quarantining everybody because it happened 18 months ago. Like, why are you still here, divas? But when the parents are like confronted with like having to give up their children to the military for, again, unexplained reasons, they're like, yeah, Sure, there you go. Like, here are all of my kids. If somebody came to my house and was like, we need your cat, maybe I wouldn't be less brazen if my town was under military occupation and I thought there'd be ramifications, but I'd still have questions like, why? Why do you need my offspring right now? What is the danger? What is the threat? How long? How does this have to do with the earthquake?
What's going on? What's the issue? What's going on? Why are we going round and round? What's the issue?
I mean, we also have a lot of our main characters are like gone for days at a time in an alternate dimension, and the parents are like going about their lives without any questions asked as to where they are. So like maybe it's just a thing in Hawkins with the parents. I would have asked more questions is just the point that I'm trying to make here. Dustin makes a reference to Return of the Jedi. Him, Jonathan, Nancy, and Steve are all in the Upside Down, and I don't know what the context was, but Dustin was theorizing that something had like a perimeter around it protecting something, and he equated that to Return of the Jedi, where we have energy shield on the forest moon of Endor that is protecting the Death Star from any attack. I just want to say that like I appreciate that there was a Return of the Jedi reference. I know that Return of the Jedi is like objectively not everyone's favorite original trilogy Star Wars movie, but it is mine. Like I don't know if you can see that, but that little rug right there with the spray bottle on it, like that is my opening crawl to Return of the Jedi throw rug that I have in my office. There's a spray bottle there because Lulu just threw up there and I have to, let it soak and then I'll clean it up. I appreciate that we have a Return of the Jedi representation in Stranger Things. I cannot stress enough that Murray should have died. I know I talked about that a lot, but meditating on that and contemplating on that a little bit further, he's annoying. We should have killed him. And that's all I'm going to say on that.
Again, as predicted, my broken heart open and they ripped it out again.
Now I want to talk about a show that was personally recommended to me from my parents, and by personally recommended, I mean they started watching it and then kind of like gently insisted that I watch it in every conversation that I had with them until I relented and started watching the show. So if you don't know what Shrinking is, essentially it is a story following these couple different therapists that work at a practice owned by Harrison Ford. His character is a therapist and he owns this practice, and a couple of these other therapists work there as well, including Jason Segal's character named Jimmy. Jimmy's wife recently passed away within like, I think a year and a half ago. And he's just like spiraling, imploding, just kind of like losing his mind a little bit. It's kind of impacting how he is working with his clients as a therapist and all of that. And he also has a teenage daughter that he's like very low key, high key, medium key, and every single key neglecting and not really like raising very well. And she's just over it as well. And the story basically centers around all these different people. Some of them are therapists, some of them are not, dealing with various different things in their life that are difficult or challenging to process. And they develop this kind of organic support system, not like a therapy group, but just like they happen to be therapists, but like other people in their lives too, coming together and developing this friendship. This show is interesting to me in the sense that like it feels profoundly happy in a way that other shows that I've seen haven't felt that way at all. And I don't mean happy in the sense that like everything that happens to these characters is great and positive, nothing but good vibes whatsoever. Characters, while yes, they might not do all the perfect things all the time, they seem inherently good at heart and they seem like well-intended at heart. The dynamic that they form in creating this kind of makeshift family and support system and friendship with one another, it feels very organic. It doesn't feel like it's too much sugarcoating or sappy or like inauthentic in that way. And I think that's just like, that's kind of a beautiful thing to just kind of have something feel pure. And that's not to say that every story needs to be like that. I wouldn't want every story to be like that, but it's cool that this story is. Also, the performances are really great. Harrison Ford, it's very interesting to see him not jumping out of something, blowing something up, using a lasso or a laser blaster or whatever. It's very weird to see him just being a normal guy. The subtlety with his performance, the nuance and everything like that, it's done super well. Jason Segel is also really good in this role. You can see the comedic timing is definitely there, but it's more of a serious role for him than what I've seen him in. Everyone is great, and I love that, and I love good acting performances. These people feel real. I'm excited to see what happens next.
You didn't kill anyone for those, did you?
No. I haggled.
The live action One Piece season 2. I've only seen like 3 episodes so far, but I do have opinions that I do want to just briefly touch on, and I will be talking about this more extensively once I've seen the entirety of the season in a separate video, probably next on my channel. I do think the live action season 2 is pretty good. I really enjoy it. A lot of the things that I liked about the first season, I think they're kind of continuing that vibe and increasing and enhancing those things into season 2, which is great. However, I have questions. I think one of the best things about the live action One Piece and why so many people are calling it one of the best live action adaptations from a cartoon or anime that's ever existed, other than the masterpiece that inspired the sweatshirt, one of the great things about it is that it's not afraid to embrace the live action medium. It's not afraid to maybe make some changes in the story or the characters that will fit this format, and inherently kind of making the live action its own entity rather than trying to just copy exactly what was done in the manga, or especially what was done in the anime. Because if you're trying to just do a one-for-one copy, a lot of the times, like, why don't you just watch the original source material? I think by creating something that feels like it's capturing the spirit of One Piece but not doing exactly the same thing in the exact same way, just in a live action medium, it's making the overall story and the overall show better, and it feels different but in a positive way, and I really like that and respect and appreciate that. However, in the effort to try to like shuffle different things around and like makes things work for the live action context, in the first season, there were instances of characters being introduced early, like not canonically in the same events or like sequence of events as we have from the manga or the anime. There have been events that were either cut out or added in, or like things that happened in a way that my friend who's the expert on One Piece said were going to have ramifications like thousands of episodes down the line. I don't know enough about the show or just like the entire big picture to really speak on that, but it's been apparently something that happened in the first season, but I was okay with it because I felt like the writers of the show kind of have a direction of where things are going, and they also have seen the entirety of One Piece, and they would probably hopefully account for those things and what they're going to do accordingly when those events come up. In season 2, however, I started noticing a couple things that I'm starting to wonder, like, why are you doing that? I'm kind of in a unique situation where I'm at a particular point in the story of One Piece, and I'm almost at the time jump, and I'm in like the couple episodes following the Marineford kind of conflict where a particular character is introduced. And if you have seen the live action and you've also seen all of One Piece or are past where I'm at, you probably know who I'm talking about. Their fate was kind of suggested at a particular point in the anime, and then this character like is shown where their fate is like revealed in a particular way in the live action, and it's all like stuff that happens several hundred episodes after where the live action is supposed to take place, equal to the anime episodes, if that makes sense. If you're kind of in my position where you're watching One Piece and you think it's safe to tune into the live action because you've seen very far past what the events are depicting in the live action medium, you could get spoiled. And the reason for why they're showing this particular character's fate is probably for no other reason than an Easter egg. You did spoil their fate for me, and I know that not everybody watching the show is in my particular position. You might not even have noticed it. I don't really care about spoilers too much, but that was something that I didn't know, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm literally watching the episode that this character is talked about in the anime, but it kind of ruined the resolution for their character in the live action for no other reason than to like hint to the fact that this person exists. But like, why? Why would you do that? Also, there is a conversation between two characters in the episodes that I have seen that did not happen at that time. It actually happened in, I think, Marineford, and it did spoil something for my husband, who is even further behind than I am in the anime, but past the events of season 2 of the live action. I don't know if it should be an expectation of like, you either have to have not seen anything from One Piece so these things don't matter to you, or you have to have seen everything so nothing will get spoiled to you. It's just a little bit odd that they're making these decisions, because you could run the risk of spoiling something for somebody unintentionally for reasons that are not yet clear to me. Maybe this is a niche problem because maybe there's like a small population of people who are in my situation or my husband's situation where you're like in the process of watching One Piece, but you're at a particular point in the story where this stuff would apply. But maybe there are also other things that are getting spoiled for other people who are at different points in the story, like past where I am, but still not fully caught up yet, that were integrated in there and I don't even know because I haven't seen it yet. I understand like this live action project probably can't last the entirety of the story of what we see in the manga and the anime, because there's like 1,300 episodes of the anime, and there's no way that we can make a live action series given how long it takes to make this kind of content. Maybe moving stuff up that are important and pivotal, and like they're going to kind of condense things so they could have a conclusion to the live action that doesn't necessarily parallel with where the anime and the manga are. However, I do kind of question why they did the things that they did in the second season, and if there are other instances that you guys might have noticed, let me know in the comment section below. I will be talking about this in my other video in greater detail, but yeah. Beyond that, just in terms of like the content itself, from what I've seen, the acting is really good. I think especially Zoro and Nami and Usopp and Sanji have really settled into their roles, especially Zoro. He seemed very reserved in the first season, which is kind of Zoro inherently, but he seems a little bit more swagger to him, which I think is kind of fun to watch. Luffy, it's odd, like kind of seems the least comfortable in the role, and I don't know if he's just getting some weird directions or something on set. From what I've seen so far, it looks like he's a little stiff. It seems a little bit like less Luffy inherently from what I saw in the first season. So beyond that, all the sets are amazing. All the casting for the show is absolutely top tier. A very, very impressive feat to just put the attention to detail for all the things like the coat hanger hair that we saw in the first episode. Could not be more happy about that. I want to finish this conversation by talking a little bit about the movies that I watched in 2026, because I've been making a conscious effort this year to like take a lot of the movies that are considered like classic iconic movies by our standards and like actually watching them, because I've realized there's so many of them that I haven't seen yet. So I did watch Jurassic Park for the first time a couple weeks ago. It definitely was not a movie I should have watched as a child because I had undiagnosed anxiety as a kid, and I definitely would have thought that a dinosaur was going to come in and murder me. But watching it as a very brave 30-year-old adult, I will say that I did enjoy watching this movie. I can definitely see why it's a classic. I thought that the practical effects of like the dinosaurs and everything, especially given this movie took place or was filmed in like the 80s or 90s, I think, the effects definitely stand the test of time. I was having a hard time even figuring out what they used for a lot of the things because it looked really good. I also really liked what the movie did with like building the tension and the anticipation and the scariness surrounding the dinosaurs. And it was a really effective way to establish tone and tension in the story. So we keep being told throughout the first half of the movie that the velociraptors are the dinosaurs you really have to worry about. They're the most dangerous, they're fast, they're mean, they have sharp teeth, all the things. Handlers that work at this Jurassic Park place, one of them gets murdered and they're all like looking horrified, like one of them is like getting dragged away and everything. You don't actually see what it looks like. You're like, holy shit, what is a velociraptor? Like this looks scary as hell. And then there's another scene a couple minutes later and they're feeding it and they're like releasing this full cow on a little like harness thing into the cage where they're keeping the velociraptor. And you don't see it, you just hear like a bunch of horrific noises and then you see the harness come back up and the cow is just like completely gone. So these kinds of things, you don't have to see the velociraptor to know that it's fucking scary. Those kinds of things I think are more effective in establishing tone and establishing tension and having it be scarier rather than showing you something that is scary. It's kind of like the Jaws effect, the absence of the shark, but seeing the effect of it is far scarier than seeing the shark in and of itself. And I think that applies very much for Jurassic Park. And it was a very effective storytelling tool. Some other observations that I made while watching this movie. So here's the thing. My brother in college, I think, took some sort of elective course where he had to watch movies and kind of analyze them a little bit. One of them was Jurassic Park, and I remember him talking about it, and he kept saying, like, I wish that the dinosaurs killed those annoying kids. I remember thinking, because I hadn't seen it, I was like, oh, that's like kind of a crazy thing to say. Now watching the movie, like, I kind of get it. Like, I'm not saying that these children should have died, obviously, but like they really were just doing anything possible to not live. And I'm not saying me as a child would be better. I'm not saying me as an adult would be better, if we're being completely honest, but like, I get it. I also watched for the first time X-Men: The Last Stand. Now, I'm kind of like a Marvel Cinematic Universe girly, like at least through phase 3. I haven't read the comic books or anything like that. I didn't really watch the X-Men movies when they were getting released growing up, but I was like kind of vaguely aware of them. Then I saw that Kelsey Grammer was going to be in Avengers Doomsday, and I was like, what the fuck is Kelsey Grammer going to be in Avengers Doomsday for? And then I looked it up and saw him blue hair, blue face paint, blue prosthetics, playing a character by the name of the Beast, and he made his first appearance in X-Men: The Last Stand, and I was like, oh, I must see this movie because this is crazy. If you watched Frasier or have any knowledge of like Kelsey Grammer as Frasier in any capacity whatsoever, I highly recommend watching this movie because it is like Frasier if he was blue and a giant like beast and was just like beating the shit out of people along with other mutants. Like that's basically his character. He is Frasier as a beast. So that was really fun for me. I watched Men in Black. I really liked it. One of the reasons that I wanted to bring up the fact that I watched Men in Black for the first time is that Wilson Fisk, I didn't realize until afterwards when I looked it up that he was the person that portrayed like the guy that was taken over by the aliens and was like running around. Like those are the only two things that I've ever seen this actor in. I've seen him as Wilson Fisk and I've seen him as hillbilly that gets his brain possessed by an alien in Men in Black. The range that this man as an actor possesses in these roles is just absolutely crazy to me. I also want to just like save a little space in this video to talk about Fast and Furious because I watched the first 2 movies for the first time and holy shit was that an experience for me. I had always wanted to watch the Fast and the Furious movies mainly because I had no idea what the hell they were about. I would see like out of context clips of like cars flying out of like skyscrapers and driving into other skyscrapers and I'm like, what is the, like, what could the plot possibly be? I see like Vin Diesel talking about family all the time, and I'm like, why is he doing that? Is he talking about the cars, or is he talking about the people that drive the cars? So I wanted to watch the first Fast and the Furious movie to just see what the hell it was about. And I am happy to report that there is kind of a plot, and it kind of makes sense now that I know what's going on, but it still doesn't really make any sense at all. Paul Walker's character is an undercover cop, and he is investigating this like car repair shop because this guy, Vin Diesel, his character has like a background of violence, or he had like a violent assault on somebody in the past. The FBI and the cops think that he is part of this like street car gang that like runs trucks off the road and like steals stuff that's being carried in the trucks or something, and they just assume that it's Vin Diesel because Vin Diesel had a violent assault of somebody in the past, and that he like likes cars and sometimes does like drag racing in the streets of LA. So they send Paul Walker in undercover to kind of infiltrate his squad and see if they can find any information out. Paul Walker gets too deep. He like falls in love with somebody's sister or something, and then they start a relationship, and he starts like aligning himself with them. Then there's a lot of like cars and their stuff, and it's like one of those kinds of movies. It's kind of one of those things where it's like it's a fun, not super serious movie that takes driving cars way over the top, and the campiness and the early 2000s-ness of it is very enjoyable and entertaining to me as somebody who drives a Kia Rio hatchback. I will say though, one criticism that I do have of the movie that I cannot excuse. Whoever did the sound mixing for this movie needs to serve life sentence jail time. We had to keep turning the volume up and down by like 20 decibels from one scene to the next. If somebody was talking, they're just having a conversation or whatever, you had to turn it up to 40 because it was so freaking quiet. It sounded like they were whispering to each other basically. And then you cut to a different scene where somebody is driving a car. The engine noises were so, like, the decibels that they turned those noises up to was absolutely out of control ridiculous. I live on a street where people rev their motorcycles up and down the street constantly when there's no snow on the ground. So like, I understand that engines are loud. I don't need to be reminded of that in this fucking movie. The Fast and the Furious movie was fun. I enjoyed it. It made me want to watch the second one, which is of course called Too Fast, Too Furious. It's Too Fast and Too Furious because they're going even faster, but it's also two, like the number, because it's the second one. That is actual poetry, and you can't change my mind about that. We still have the sound mixing that's awful in this movie, and it takes place in Miami for some reason. Paul Walker is undercover again. He is trying to deal with some sort of villain who also drives cars. They have to like drop off some sort of like payload to a particular location, and they're undercover with someone of his friends who lives in Miami, who is like also, I don't know. None of the other characters from the original movie are in this one other than Paul Walker and the cop and the FBI agent, which I don't know why the cop is here if he has jurisdiction in LA. Why are you in Miami? I don't really understand anything that's happening. I will say the one memorable thing about this movie was at the end of the movie, they're trying to get the girl, because you always have to get the girl and rescue her. The villain has the girl on a yacht and he's about to kill her, and they're driving this car, Paul Walker and his friend, and they're like, yacht, car, boat. And that's literally the conversation that they had. And then he like literally drives his sports car onto the yacht, like lands onto the yacht, and then, you know, obviously rescues everybody. Doesn't manage to kill anybody in that process, but I could not believe what I was watching, and I turned to my husband to be like, did you just fucking see that? And he was asleep. The overwhelming, overstimulating noise of car engines served as a white noise and lulled him to sleep in the second movie. If you want to take the plot seriously, I have no idea what the fuck is going on from one minute to the next. Also, I have family that lives in Miami, and I can say from experience that there are a lot of people that drive like this in Miami. It is very scary. I would never want to drive a car in Miami because it is actually terrifying. Okay, I think that's all that I have to say. I'm pretty sure. That was a lot. I've watched a lot so far in 2026, and the problem is that the longer I waited to put this video out, the more things I watched and the more things I had to talk about. But I think we're at a good stopping point here. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know in the comment section what you think of anything that I talked about, and if there's other things that you want me to check out in the next couple weeks here. Like I said, I'd love to have this be like a monthly or every other month thing, or every 3 months by the pattern of this video getting released at the end of March, early April. I would love to kind of make videos like this to just kind of like keep you guys updated on what I'm watching. If you enjoyed content like this, let me know in the comment section. And again, like I said, let me know what else you want me to cover. In the meantime, I am going to go pay attention to my cat because otherwise she is going to murder me in my sleep. So, bye!